up with it.
No, so I have a question though, Pepe, on what you guys are saying with just the numbers. Am I right that the California redistricting will not be in the midterm?
It's in the midterms.
It is in the midterms.
Yes, they're going. Now it may be stopped because of this latest Supreme Court ruling. It depends on the map, because all it's going to take is a challenge and say, hey, here. And it didn't strip away the ability to challenge maps or to actually delineate based on certain categories or to redraw. It's just stating that you can pack a district or split it solely based on race. You can't use that as the preeminent doctrine to create a district to add seats. So California doing that, they're probably going to get challenged. I think there's going to probably be a stay because there's literally a litany of lawsuits about to be filed. So I imagine that these things are going to stay for probably, I don't think California will be able to do the redistricting there, which again sucks. And then by the presidential cycle, they're going to have a census. They're going to lose 6 seats on their own. So even if they redistrict, they're still losing 6. How are they going to make up for it?
Wait, they're not having a census till...
No, when they have it, I know, but when they have that census, they lose 6. Right now, they're projected to lose anywhere from 4 to 6. I'm going with 6 because I don't believe that California has like a massive influx of businesses and people coming in outside of the homeless. I just really don't.
One of the most ironic things, and so it was actually, I was talking to Richard Spencer, I think, I don't know.
Oh boy.
So you guys might know who he is.
Oh, I know exactly who. We've told you.
Yeah, and I was talking to him, and I was having to look this shit up, and he's actually a fairly intelligent, and he's saying, like, he was complaining about how he thinks one of the most bombastic claims that he hears coming from the right is that the browning of California, the demographic change, is what turned it left. And it was actually, what ended up happening is that he's actually correct. You had a huge influx of people into different areas in California that ended up basically making places turn much further left. And then you had, obviously the Bay Area and so forth. And then you have, you actually see that, like, the Hispanic population in particular has been progressively turning more right-wing. In fact, I think in California, I don't know what the percentage of the Hispanic males. It might have been a majority. It was near 50% of them voted for Trump in 2024. But it is. I forget what I was responding to that made me want to say that, but redrawing the maps along racial lines. I don't know how much that would work.
Well, so I mistook that. I thought the whole time that they wouldn't have gotten it in time for the midterms, but so if a judge doesn't stay it and they go forward, then those districts are redrawn for this election in November, is what you're saying, in California.
If a judge approves it and no lawsuits, yeah, they'll go in for this midterms. They're going to be there. They're going to have the map drawn, but they're going to get challenged already. The lawsuits are already pending out the door.
I'm trying. Are there others other than the states you rattled off? I mean, it must be every state looking at this now, at least with the Republican government.
But Abby, with the new Supreme Court ruling, don't you think like the southern states you do, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, all sorts of states should like redistrict it, show the way that they've done it in New England. When you look at New England, it's a disgrace. 40% of people in Massachusetts vote Republican. Same thing New York, same thing Rhode Island, same thing in Massachusetts and other places. So why is it like, don't you think that the Republican governors, like they're doing in Louisiana right now, are calling off their primaries be sure if they're gonna get Republicans.
It's complicated as people live in like it's like separating like the inner cities, which, like for example, if you're to look at like I don't know what percentage of Long Island is Republican. I'm guessing it's a lot higher than people who live in New York City. But they're in such close proximity to each other, yet you're going to see differences in averages of like how they vote. I personally don't know how you rectify that. It's not my area.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm not talking about like rectifying and everything. I'm talking about like doing the same maps that they've done in New England. If you look at the New England maps, they're absolutely ridiculous. What they've done with that.
But if you look in like New England, if you look at like Boston, for example, you have a lot of smaller. So you have basically Boston and Massachusetts. Everything else is a lot. That metropolitan area dwarfs, all of the other towns and cities in that state, and so they are. So you can look at a map of Massachusetts where it's overwhelmingly red, but then you have like the bulk of the population living in one area, and they tend to be blue, and that's kind of the different. That's always kind of been a thing when it comes to the urban versus more rural people. They do tend to be a little bit different. The urban people tend to be more liberal generally, more educated generally, and they're going to vote differently. But these big cities, because they're big cities, they have the bulk of the population, and so how can you really remedy that? You give like 20%. So imagine like 20% of the population occupies 80% of the state. But then 80% of the population occupies 20% of the state. Who do you disenfranchise here?
Yeah, but I'm saying
the majority of the people or the majority of the land mass. Like that's where it's kind of.
I'm not talking about land mass. I'm talking about, for example, Alabama can do the same thing. Arkansas can do the same thing. Louisiana can do the same thing. Everybody can redistrict like they do in New England. And then if the Republican states redistrict like they do in New England, you would never have a Democratic, house.
We couldn't do that. We couldn't do that.
Years.
We couldn't do that in a state like Massachusetts. No, with New England, like Massachusetts, we could never do that.
Just let me finish. You name 40% of people vote Republican. In Alabama, the same thing, All I'm trying to say is that why don't Republicans just do the same thing that Democrats do in New England to the southern states?
Oh, yeah, that's an very easy answer. The problem is that the Democrats occupy, once again, the majority of the population that is clustered in urban centers. Then you get the more rural people that are overwhelmingly or just slightly more Republican. That is the problem. Now, the question you should be asking is, how do we change urban, especially educated people that live in cities on the eastern seaboard from being liberal? I don't. That's a whole different question. I don't know that you can.
About, like, how can he doesn't make you educated? Like I'm sure all of us in this room all have degrees, in one way or another. All I'm trying to say is
no, but statistically, the more educated. Hold on. Statistically, the more educated you are, the higher your level of education in the United States, the more likely you are to be liberal. That's a consistent fact. You can bitch and whine about it all you want, but that is a fact.
I'm agreeing with you. And the reason why I say it's a fact because they indoctrinate us that way. All I'm trying to say is the fact is that if New England can put their maps the way that they do, with congressional maps the way they do, why can't the South do that after the Supreme Court hearing?
What does New England do?
Have you seen New England? it's like 40% of the people in Massachusetts vote Republican, and they have zero seats.
Yeah, but they live in.
It's the same thing.
But they're absolute. Okay, 40%. This is where.
But the thing is, like,
oh my God, you're not getting it. It's a mathematical thing. Okay, so the majority. Hold on. The majority of that 40% that are Republican are going to still live in the big population center where they are going to have people that outnumber them. That are liberals or Democrats. Okay, so their votes are basically you can just toss those right out the fucking trash because in their districts, their vote is just they're gonna get outvoted. Then you have these sparsely populated districts of Republicans, which are a fraction of the population of the